legit.
MMA Buzz.
Hello and welcome to MMA Buzz, the East Coast MMA chat, where three friends catch a buzz over some brews and talk about MMA, upcoming cards, and industry news. Coming to you pre-recorded from our Fredericton, New Brunswick studio apartment. I am your host, Rodney Mann. That's Rodney Mann on Instagram. Joining me today, to my right, we've got
Loot Screver Trevor here. Screver on Instagram.
And to my left, rounding out the panel,
Nick Brown, NHBrown44 on Instagram.
Collectively, we are MMA Buzz Radio. You can find MMA Buzz Radio on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook just by searching MMA Buzz Radio. Make sure to like and follow us, and let us know what you think so we can make the show better. Welcome to the podcast. If you are unfamiliar with the podcast, we like to open it off telling you guys what we are drinking today. And today, I will start off, let you guys know, I'm drinking a Hopbot IPA from Hop City Brewing Co. in Moncton, New Brunswick. Nick, what do you got?
I've got an SPCA IPA from Pump House Brewing. A little bit of the proceeds go to the SPCA. And this one has Lily the cat on it.
Hey, Lily. He's so cute.
I want to scrap him.
Trav, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking a Fredericton's own Maybe Brew Co. It's the hard-working American IPA with you for a long haul. It's 7% alcohol. It's very tasty, and it just got canned here a couple of weeks ago. And it's very popular. Even the people at the liquor store say, it's selling like crazy. So
keep up the good work, maybe. That's some Fredericton breweries making it happen here. Lots of microbreweries popping up in town. It's a great time to be alive and living on the East Coast. Beer culture is, really starting to flourish to where we can all enjoy a beer of any type, anytime.
It's really thriving here at the moment, yes.
We've got a lot to talk to you about today. The UFC Fight Night 82 card that just happened, as well as looking forward to more cards and all kinds of promotions. But first, boys, let's toast to Episode 7 of MMA Buzz.
Bros.
Delicious.
Hit it too hard, I might fall on that.
Yeah. So, guys, let's get right into it. UFC Fight Night 82, Hendricks versus Thompson. Used to be UFC 196, downgraded to a Fight Night card after the main event fell through between Verdum and Cain Velasquez, the rematch of the ill-fated return of Cain Velasquez that happened last year in Mexico. Where Cain, his only return. One where Cain looked a little sluggish at altitude, and Verdum, really shone through, having trained at altitude in Mexico, getting ready for that fight. Of course, those two both injured with back injuries, Cain having successful back surgery, and Verdum targeting Miocic moving forward, probably likely to happen in the summer.
They're thinking actually April, from what I saw.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, there's some rumors going around right now.
All right, well, there you go. There you have it. So we are going to see Miocic fighting for the title, it sounds like, with Verdum in no time. But unfortunately, we didn't get to see that last night. Instead, we got treated to a Fight Night card between lots of up-and-coming fighters, some vets for sure, all capping off with Johny Hendricks, former welterweight champion, fighting a karate-style fighter in Stephen Thompson. Of course, if you've seen the fight, you know how it went down. Thompson putting on a clinic.
Street Fighter combo.
Yeah, just straight up pantsing Hendricks. Hendricks, of course, looking better than ever in physical shape anyways, and hiring a nutritionist going into this fight, never really faltering as far as his weight was concerned, which is especially notable considering he actually missed weight last time, blaming it on rancid deer meat that he had consumed, that he himself had hunted.
Maybe he ate a bullet.
Maybe. But yeah, what we saw was, like I say, a clinic put on by Stephen Thompson, just destroying Hendricks with his game. Hendricks never really had a chance to get his game going at all. Thompson just not showing any respect to the former champion. Just dropping kicks like punches. and following up quick with sort of an unrelenting assault. Of course, scoring the TKO 3 minutes and 31 seconds into the first round, just crumpling Hendricks on the cage and showing us all, just the promise that he has in this division, and perhaps showing a glimpse of what to expect from Hendricks moving forward. Guys, this fight, amazing to watch. Let's get your take on it, Grev.
Actually, I'd watched this earlier without the commentary, and I've got to say, they actually, with watching with commentary, they did not even get close to them mentioning how many times he actually had Hendricks hurt. There was a body kick he had hit him with. There was that had him clenching his jaw. You could see he wanted to puke a little bit, maybe out the butt too. And he looked like he was hurting. Fantastic performance by Stephen Thompson. We were actually calling for possibly a first or second round TKO for him, or a grinder where Hendricks is good at, which he tried. Couldn't take Steven down, and then after that, all doom and hell came on for Hendricks. Crazy good performance. It's almost like a Street Fighter combo. I could have swear I could see like the flashes of numbers popping up with every hit he was doing. Yeah, awesome performance. Can't wait to see him take the winner on of Conditz and Lawler if they do that rematch. If not, Lawler versus Thompson for sure.
That would be a stand-up affair for the memory books, I think.
Yeah, that's a fan
crazy
fight. Yeah, that's a fight for the fans right there.
Every fight with Robbie Lawler is a fight for the fans.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nick, your take on this fight?
Oh, it was great. 6-fight win streak.
Yeah, capped off against a former champ.
Yeah. Going in and, wow. I guess Trevor pretty much said it all. He destroyed Johny Hendricks, and I guess we all saw that coming, but the fan vote was like 70% in favor of Hendricks.
Yeah, and that's partially because of the whole, he does garner the public attention because he was the former champion, and having been, it's actually kind of interesting because you look at Hendricks and he one judged the other way in two very important fights, and his life would have been completely different.
Yeah.
Like, nothing that both of his recent losses that have, lost him the title, and then, lost him the opportunity at the title, they were both really tight fights that, went to split decisions, and, I think he got ready to leave. It looked like he wasn't going to leave this one up to the judges. He was looking to trade with him on his feet, and maybe that's partially because he never got the chance to go for the takedown because he was always just so dealing with the strange and unorthodox angles that Stephen Thompson gave him. Yeah.
This guy has his hands down in front of you. You're just like, and switching stances.
Well, that's just
Must have just been like, holy shit, what did I get myself into?
Primarily a wrestler, Hendricks is used to looking at someone almost face on and then deciding to attack that way, and Stephen Thompson standing in a karate style sideways looking at him. It's kind of hard to figure out how you're going to get that double leg takedown when you can't even see both legs. You look at the ratings, UFC media garnered or generated ratings and rankings, and we've got Thompson at 8th and Hendricks at number 2 going into this fight. And it looks to me like you could almost swap those two, given the way that he pantsed him and who's above him.
I believe he's number 1 right now, actually.
Hendricks?
Not Hendricks.
Stephen Thompson?
Stephen Thompson, yeah.
Seriously, all the way from 8 to 1.
8 to 1, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't been updated on UFC.com, so when you're looking at it, we've got Don Hyung Kim above him at number 7, Matt Brown at number 6, who actually has a win over Stephen Thompson, the only loss that Stephen Thompson has in the UFC, in his career, actually. And then we've got Damian Maia, who just had a very impressive win over Gunnar Nelson. Carlos Condit, who just fought for the title, who had a really close loss to Rory McDonald, who will likely score the rematch. They're just figuring out all of the details, I believe. I think Carlos was saying that the only fight that he would come back for is Robbie Lawler. And, I imagine that fight will happen again. And then, of course, we got Tyrone Woodley, who's been sitting on the sidelines, Johny Hendricks, who just lost, and then Rory McDonald, who just fought last year in the fight of the year against Robbie Lawler for the title. Yep. So it's just a murderer's row. And if Stephen Thompson hops all of those people, I wouldn't be surprised given the way that he just, showed up, dominated Hendricks.
It's interesting to see what they do with Tyrone Woodley.
Yeah.
He was supposed to get the shot due to Johny Hendricks missing weight that time, so be interesting to see what they do.
Well, a promise from Dana's mouth is as good as a promise in a language you can't understand.
Very true. I got something to say, too, about Johny Hendricks.
Yeah.
To add on to his book of excuses, which is an actual thing if you look it up on Google Images. 70%, 70% Hendricks. He said many things. He went on to say that he's blaming his training partners on not being, keeping karate distance or having karate background. So, kind of baffling that he would say that.
Wouldn't that come down to his coaching, though? Wouldn't the coach decide the sparring partners and actually direct them on what to do in that instance?
Yeah.
And he did change camps from American Top Team from Team Takedown for this fight. So it seems convenient to blame the new guys.
I guess, yeah.
Who do you train with that is like Stephen Thompson?
It's never his fault.
Oh yeah,
of course it isn't.
Yeah.
It's great to look at Stephen Thompson and think, that could be Stage Northcutt in a few years, just because, here we have a karate stylist that is trained by his father, who signed with the UFC young and has, put on some tremendous performances. Of course, his only loss coming to Matt Brown, like I mentioned, which I expected Johny Hendricks to really glean from, given that Matt Brown grinded him to a win.
Yep.
And you would think, being a wrestler himself, go for that early, but,
I think the Wonderboy now would take Matt Brown, actually.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, especially with that confidence. He just looked so confident. He didn't give him a chance at all, Hendricks, that is, to get his rhythm or find his game or anything. It was just all
focus.
Yeah, it was all Thompson all the time. Anything else to mention about this fight before we move on down the card?
I think I'm going to watch it again after this.
The only thing I want to mention is there was a quick interview with Wonderboy's dad.
Oh, yes.
And
yeah.
I just gotta say, he looked and sounded like a Little League football coach. He just needed to have a clipboard or a playbook in his hand.
He probably had the clipboard at
wearing a hoodie. He had that Johnny Unitas haircut.
Yeah. Spin shit.
Yeah.
Spin shit. K.O. on his clipboard.
Well, then actually in the in the lead-up promotion to that fight, they were saying Stephen Thompson was saying, when I hear my dad yell "spin," I know exactly what to do, and that's when he heard. They showed the recap of the Ellenberger fight, and all you hear is his dad "spin, spin," and then he just turns, fucking knocks him out.
Yeah, and it's not just a spin; it's like a certain spin. He says,
yeah.
Well, it's working,
which is great because a lot of people say, 1, 2, 3, or like uppercut, and those people know. They can hear it corners.
Yeah.
But if you're saying spin, and you can do many different spins, but if you know, like, there's like little subliminal like words for certain attacks, then your opponent won't hear that and know what you're talking about. So it's sneaky.
Yeah, it is sneaky for sure.
Actually, I'm just gonna point that out. Johny Hendricks, when he started in UFC, when Modern Warfare 2, the Call of Duty game came out, his corner was yelling all the different commands like AC-130.
Oh, yes, I remember
bombing. That. He actually used code words for certain moves in the fight.
Yeah, I do remember that.
It's pretty cool.
The one redeeming quality about Johny Hendricks.
Yep, right there. That was 4 years ago, maybe?
Yeah, it's been a while since we've been on the Hendricks train. Sorry if you're listening, Johnny. Please turn it around. We want to see you, rise to your former glory so we can get behind you again. But you know what? We're all behind Thompson right now, and I definitely see him moving up and bringing it to whoever he fights next, whether it's for the championship belt or not.
No more steakhouses.
That was also Stephen Thompson's third performance of the night in 4 fights.
There you go.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, definitely worth moving into the title picture.
Good on you, Wonderboy.
Yep. So let's move on down the card. Let's talk about... overall, the card to me seemed like it was drawn out so long. Yeah, maybe it was because I was expecting a pay-per-view without any commercials, and then instead we were, treated to commercials between every single thing. It was, worse than Bellator. It was just so many commercials.
So long.
Christ almighty. Anyways,
production
tighten up
seemed
production.
okay, though, in a way that there was pretty good Photoshop and such, but... It's so long.
Yeah, it was really long. The pacing really suffered. The card only ended around 2:30, especially considering the card was missing a fight. This card could have easily gone until 3.
Yeah, and if that fight went 5 rounds, would have been over 3.
We wouldn't have been awake right now. We would have been sleeping.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's go on down the card. Misha Serkinov, Alex Nicholson. If you notice, we're jumping right past the co-main event, quote unquote, because Rochelle just doesn't do it for us, and unfortunately,
Thankfully he lost.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Roy Nelson couldn't get the highlight KO. So yeah, we're just going to talk about a fighter fighting out of Canada, Misha Serkinov, fighting out of Toronto, Ontario. Just looks like a machine, just ripped, huge guy for his weight division. Of course, fighting Alex Nicholson of Proposal fame, who proposed to his girlfriend, or fiance, sorry, at the weigh-ins. Of course, you would expect to win on that. Unfortunately, he was the biggest underdog on the card, and it came through.
Showed. Oh,
yeah, and I hope they weren't looking to get married soon, because Misha Serkinov literally snapped his chin, his jawbone, and you could hear it, and on the feed, and oh my god.
We all thought we heard it.
It was loud.
We thought it might have been, but then Brian Stan really showed the point of having that replay show.
Yeah,
the
and of course Fox FS1 tweeted out that the sound effect of Alex Nicholson's jaw breaking will haunt our dreams forever.
It looked like he was doing some like Arnold 1980s neck break.
Yeah.
Like it looked like something from an 80s action.
He tapped right away, and apparently Alex Nicholson unwired his broken jaw for this fight just to be able to compete. So we have somebody here, maybe we can't really go down the path, but this is really tied into fighter's pay, who's clearly doing his own medical procedures, undoing his own jaw, and now he has to wire it shut again. So yeah, maybe Misha had the book on him and knew that he had to attack the jaw. But
speaking to the medical side of things, I've been reading a few interviews with 1FC fighters, and one thing they talk about is how great 1FC is when it comes to medical stuff. Like, they cover anything that's needed medical-wise for their fighters.
Well, that's a good thing, considering didn't one of their fighters just die?
From
weight cutting. So yeah,
which they changed up their whole weight cutting system after that.
Sure.
So
it'll be interesting to see how the weight cutting goes with 2016 for 1FC. Like, it's kind of neat. It's really cool promotion. Look forward to what they're doing.
Yeah, we're going to talk about 1FC moving forward too. So let's not give up the milk, give up the cow. We can sell them the milk. So let's move down the card here.
Is that a Sussex
Mickey,
phrase?
It's a Sussex phrase, yeah. So, I mean, we have probably the pinnacle matchup of the evening. We have two competitors coming in, and within a combined record of 1-0. Of course, I'm talking about Mickey Gall versus Mike Jackson in the prelims. We have the UFC debut of Mickey Gall, who really made quick work of Mike Jackson. Very impressive. He did exactly what he had to do. He had to show up and pretty much pants this guy on national television so he could have a highlight reel in the UFC so they could promote him against CM Punk. Of course, CM Punk coming from the World Wrestling Entertainment Organization. Signed with the UFC, I think, 2 years ago. Still yet to make his pro debut, doing a lot of training. And
or amateur.
Or amateur, has not made a MMA debut at all. But, given his cachet in the public eye, he brings a lot of name recognition to himself, obviously. And Mickey Gall coming out of local promotion, the most recent find in Dana White's Looking for a Fight reality TV show, and Mickey Gall really impressing. Quick knockout, guys. What do you make of this fight?
What I want to know is, when CM Punk comes out to fight, do they make him paint a Reebok logo over that Pepsi tattoo?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
We all looked at that Pepsi logo for a little while last night.
Straight edge.
Nobody said anything, really.
Probably the worst tattoo in UFC.
Yeah,
and there are a lot to choose from.
A lot.
Yeah, in fact, my notes are for this Mickey Gall-Mike Jackson fight. Impressive and quick. Mickey Gall with win moves on to fight CM Punk. Bad Pepsi tattoo. So, we can't get around it. It's a bad tattoo, but... I
can honestly say about that fight is that I'm happy it didn't go very long. With the lack of experience and the way they kind of started out, I was like, oh man, this could be... It needs to go quick, or it might be a really bad fight. Yeah. Thankfully, he definitely showed some technique with the rear naked choke in the ground, but also the guy that he was doing it to really didn't have much of experience. So
on the ground especially.
You know what? Good calling out CM Punk, because he's in that same bout. So
exactly.
And when he came into the cage in the octagon, it was a really awkward standoff. I think Joe Silver's in the background, showing the fist, they should do the fist thing, but They just shook hands and talked.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
Yeah, bad promotion on that
Bad
end.
tattoo.
Yeah, bad promotion. Mickey Gall, though, promoting himself very well.
Yeah.
CM Punk doesn't have an MMA fight, but he has a name.
Yeah.
He's
And
still
people are
huge in
going to
WWE.
watch that fight.
Yeah, oh yeah, people are going to tune in. He's aiming for UFC 200, CM Punk is, but Dana White, of course, trying to counter with UFC 199. Probably trying to avoid having a novice fight on a massive card.
Yeah. I wonder...
And saying not everyone can be in UFC 200, but all of the fights that were projected for UFC 200 are now scheduled before UFC 200, so
That's true, yeah.
who
Unless
will
they
be in
push them
UFC
back.
200?
I've seen a lot of things, people talking about how the possibility of him leaving UFC after a fight and going right back to wrestling.
Yeah.
Oh, you never know. It's
Like popularity, money, just trying something out. But
Hey, he's putting in the work to do it, so, props to him. So, boys,
He's got
anything
to
else
chase
to
the
talk
music.
about on this card?
Um,
Looking down it in my short-term memory, I just remember a lot of unanimous decisions. Of course, we had Roy Nelson beating Jared Rushall. We had Ovince St. Preux getting that unanimous decision over Fejao.
on one foot.
Yeah, that
One
was
leg.
unfortunate. Really would have liked to see a healthy St. Preux going into the second and third. Unfortunately, he couldn't really plant his feet or anything. And props to him for fighting through that injury. But meh. Yeah, Derek Lewis getting that TKO punches. The only thing that really stands out is Diego Rivas versus Nod Lahat. And, Lahat really impressing in the first round, really bringing the hurt to Diego Rivas. And relatively, it really looked like it was Lahat's fight to lose. And boy, did he lose it in spectacular fashion. Diego Rivas coming out of nowhere with a flying knee knockout. Ironically, he's pictured on MMA Fighting doing one of these flying knees in the open workout. Essentially the exact same flying knee, same location in the cage and everything. Definitely worth checking out if you haven't seen it yet.
Out cold. We were worried. Legit worried that he wasn't getting up.
Yeah, they did.
I was rechecking my Twitter feed every few seconds, just waiting to see something about it.
Please be
And
alive.
everybody on
Please
like
be
the
alive.
Short Dog forums were like, "Man, he's not up." Like, oh man, like
Yeah, it was a gnarly KO.
they wouldn't even show him on the screen. Like they were keeping his hand away.
If it was a pay-per-view, they would have shown it. Thanks,
Yeah.
Fox.
Brian Stan was on the ball. He reassured everyone on Twitter pretty quick that he got up on his own. So.
That's true, yeah. Yeah, props to that props to that commentator team, coming in on short notice as well. That would have been pay-per-view card. It wouldn't have been Stan and Anik. It was really good on their part. I thought it was really enjoyable to listen to them. They helped with the pacing a lot with their knowledgeable input. So without further ado, let's look back at the night that was UFC Fight Night 82, Hendricks versus Thompson, and move on to our first segment. Half-cut uppercut. All right, Nick, who was your dark horse of the evening? Who came out of nowhere and impressed you?
I gave Diego Rivas the half-cut uppercut just because he was getting his ass handed to him in the first round. And then he had that big flying knee 23 seconds into the second round with, as we were just saying, a crazy knockout.
Sniper dude.
Yeah.
Trevor, am I correct in assuming that was also your half-cut uppercut?
No, actually, Justin Scoggins was.
Oh, the
Justin
Scogs.
Scoggins, against Rayborg, who was the favorite. Rayborg was the favorite, and Justin came out flying, spinning attacks, taking him down, going for submissions. Perfect striking. Cannot wait to see what this guy does next. I really think he could go for a flyweight title at some point in the future, and I'm gonna keep his. He also has some of the best tattoos in MMA, so it's kind of like that really stood out for me as somebody that's tattooed. So
Tattoos mean a lot to us here.
Yeah,
at the
tattoos
MMA
are a
Guys.
big point of conversation.
yeah.
If you're new to the show, we talk about tattoos quite a bit. There's enough to talk about though. They're also horrible or really there's not that many good ones. Scoggins,
Scoggins actually
front runner.
Other than like his back tattoo says Scoggins.
Yeah.
Other than that, his arm is just gnarly. Look it up.
Yeah, so my half-cut uppercut goes to Mike Pyle, 40-year-old, 17-year veteran in MMA. It went to the third round against Sean Spencer. Sean Spencer landing a few shots on Mike Pyle, the trade going back and forth, both men feeling each other for a while. But Mike Pyle really I don't think was going to win that fight. It looked like Spencer was going to edge maybe a split decision, maybe a unanimous decision, and then out of nowhere, just rocks Sean Spencer, sends him at a kilter, hits him in the head, and then follows up with elbows and knees for the win. Really out of nowhere for me, and a really big win for Mike Pyle at 40 years of age in the UFC.
Really brutal finish. It was fantastic Muay Thai. Like, really cool Muay Thai technique. And came into play for that finish.
Yeah, definitely brought out that business in front half of his mullet for the end of the fight.
Keep the mullet, Pyle.
I gotta mention also Josh Berkman came out and looked great against KJ Nunes.
Yeah.
Making his lightweight division debut after, he's fought at 185, 170, and now he's down to 155. Had to cut 18 pounds in 24 hours.
Unreal.
I can imagine.
And looked great after doing that, which is
come
crazy.
on. Holy shit, I can imagine.
Berkman, another veteran of the sport. I believe he's 34 or 36. He's definitely... He needed that win. KJ Nunes, not sure what to do with him after the fact. I guess Josh Bergman is 35, sorry.
Oh, right in the middle.
Right in the middle,
It averages out.
28 12 record. Like, he's fighting a lot.
So let's move on to the second segment. Looking back last night at UFC Fight Night 82, Hendricks versus Thompson, live for free on Fox Sports 1.
For free. You hear that, Bellator? For free also.
The full bladder splatter. All right, Grab, you open it up. Who was your full bladder splatter?
This one's an easy choice. We were laughing our ass off during his fight. Artem Lobov. Man. Rock and sock and robot much.
Seriously.
The guy is not UFC caliber. He never really has been. I guess he did look good on The Ultimate Fighter from what I've heard. But now he's got a record of 11-12, so he's in the negatives for his win-to-lose ratio. And he's on a 2-fight losing streak now. And he wasn't looking great to begin with. In the third, why put your arms down and try to knock him out in a funny, weird, technique-wise way while you're gassed?
Technique out the window.
It's just not going to work. And, Russian fighters are usually pretty awesome. But Artem Lobov, man, yeah, I'm sorry, but I don't think you're going to be fighting UFC much longer.
I don't think he had the energy to keep his hands up and swing them.
Yeah, it fell on his face.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, your arms get pretty heavy, I would imagine, at the end of that 3 rounds. But even still,
They weren't even just let it down. They were like 90-degree angle. Like
he was throwing from the hip.
Terminator time.
He was throwing from the hip for sure. I mean, strength and conditioning, definitely a big part of the game, just as much as power and speed. So
yeah, for sure.
What do you have, Nick? Your full bladder splatter for UFC Fight Night 82.
I've got Alex Nicholson for my full bladder splatter.
Yeah?
I mean, after unwiring his own jaw to fight, he got it broken again. At least he got his proposal in before he had to wire his jaw shut, I guess.
It wasn't a good time to do that. Even Bisping and Dominic Cruz at the weigh-ins are like, you're the least likely to win this weekend, and you did that.
Yeah.
You might as well just have fighting on your mind, please.
That's
what they said even at the weigh-in.
Normally I wouldn't go full bladder to the guy who was the biggest underdog on the card, but he just deserves it.
Yeah. Well, my full bladder splatter goes to Johny Hendricks. Even though he was just completely outclassed by Stephen Thompson, or seemingly outclassed anyways, he is supposed to be a member of the master class of the division. And yeah, biggest stage, biggest opportunity to really forge a comeback. He's only 17-4, but those 4 losses, 2 of those 4 losses coming in recent memory when they mattered the most. So I'm saying, 3 of those 4 losses have come in recent memory. And yeah, just did not look impressive against Stephen Thompson. Couldn't get his feet under him, and ultimately pissed the bed when he needed to win the most.
But it wasn't his fault.
No, it's never his fault.
Nope. Book of excuses.
Yeah, the Book of Excuses. Yeah, if you haven't already, Google the Book of Excuses.
It's hilarious.
So yeah, that's UFC Fight Night 82. Hendricks versus Thompson in a nutshell. Boys, anything else to talk about before we move on to the rest? Yeah, okay. One good thing that came out of UFC Fight Night 82, aside from Stephen Thompson just pantsing Hendricks, was the final announcement of Jones DC2 happening And
in April, I believe?
yes, yeah, it was at April.
Yeah.
And just the fact that they have actually put a date to this fight gets me so excited. I have Jones winning, obviously. I don't think DC is going to be able to, actually put up a good fight against Jones, but who knows?
Other than if it's clinched the whole time. He was doing good in the clinch last time, but other than that, he got basically owned 95% of that fight. But.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to look forward to that fight card once we get a full card and we can actually dissect it when we're looking forward to it. But just the prospect of Jones DC fighting in the near future gets me giddy.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see
the prospect of Jones and Anthony Johnson, as I talk about every time.
Yeah,
that's what I want to see.
That's essentially it.
I want to see Jones win that belt back, and then I want to see the title fight that was supposed to happen.
I'm actually really excited to see. Jones has been doing so much weightlifting and bulking up. I want to see what kind of play that goes into his fight game now. I mean, he was already had the great technique of throws, but man, if he has that extra muscle and he can really toss some people around and possibly go to heavyweight, which I want him to do.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think that's inevitable. He did say that he wants to get that.
Would be incredible.
He wants to get that DC fight out of the way, the Rumble Johnson out of the way, and then the rematch with Gus, and then he's looking to move.
Awesome.
So,
yeah, it'd be exciting.
So that was the other notable thing that happened last night. So guys, let's take a look moving forward. Let's start with UFC Fight Night 83, Cowboy versus Cowboy. Donald Cerrone, getting a late replacement after Tim Means, the Dirty Bird, tests potentially positive for essentially a steroid, a designer steroid. I mean, he claims that he has no idea about how it got into his system, and USADA does allow for a B sample and everything. Unfortunately, the amount of time left between the testing positive and when the card is, it doesn't allow for the appeal process to be complete in order to actually promote this event properly. So the UFC moves Tim Means out of the main event and replaces him with the Brazilian Cowboy, Alex Oliveira. So we've got American Cowboy Donald Cerrone versus Alex Oliveira, the Brazilian Cowboy.
The South American Cowboy.
Yeah, we were talking about all of this news over our personal chat, and we were, and I made a prediction that they were just going to put Cowboy versus Cowboy, and at the time I meant Donald Cerrone versus himself. However, this actually did happen, so I'm just going to say clairvoyant over here.
Yeah.
The American Cowboy versus the Brazilian Cowboy, and when they're gonna fight fight.
They're gonna fight. Yeah,
one from the south, one from the deep south.
If this fight even happens, Donald Cerrone, of course, making news recently for flipping his truck on his way to practice, and then still going to practice. The truck, of course, destroyed and incapable of being salvaged.
Budweiser everywhere.
Yeah. But yeah, let's look at this card. Of course, we got Cowboy versus Cowboy on top. We got Derek Brunson in the co-main events against Rowan Carnero. Cody Garbrandt and John Lineker.
Great fight.
Yeah, and of course Brandon Thatch versus Baha Derzada.
Sear, making his long-awaited return. He's one of my favorites from a few years ago. He used to fight in Sengoku in Japan.
Yeah, and
really brutal fighter from Afghanistan.
Nice. Oh, yes. I remember that, yeah. So then we've got, looking further down, Dennis Bermudez versus Kawajiri.
My most anticipated, for sure.
Yeah, Kawajiri, of course,
Veteran.
over the hill, perhaps. This might be a really good fight for Bermudez to really showcase his evolving striking game. So, we got Joe Riggs versus Chris Camozzi. It's a pretty decent card. Yeah.
Wow.
Joe Riggs and Chris Camozzi. Camozzi's 3-5 in his last 8.
2 losses to Jacare.
And Riggs is 1-2 in his last 3, and his win was by DQ.
So,
and he shot himself in the leg in the meantime.
Yeah. Both the winner and loser of this fight are being cut. They're just fighting out their contracts at this point. And you know what? Maybe they are. I think Joe Riggs would be a great fit with Bellator. So
he used to actually fight for Bellator. I believe,
So that's the card. Fight Night 83: Cerrone versus Oliveira, Cowboy versus Cowboy. Looking forward to the promotion of this event. Really don't have much time to actually promote it properly. It's only 2 weeks away, so it'll be
Cowboy
interesting.
versus Cowboy.
Cowboy versus Cowboy. And of course, happening the night before, on February 19th, we've got Bellator 149, Shamrock versus Gracie, Battle of the Legends. Ken Shamrock coming into this event, or this fight, 28-16-2. Hoist Gracie, 14-2-3. Of course, Hoist Gracie's had a peppered past with his... PED popping, and his
just rather not being a nice guy.
And his last fight coming in 2007. The last fights read win, loss, draw, loss, win, draw, and then several wins. Back in the Gracie Challenge days. So.
Drugs that beat Sakuraba.
Yeah, and the drugs that led to that win, which was apparently not overturned. So kind of strange there.
Strange,
yeah. And of course, Shamrock coming off that loss to Kimbo, his return back to the limelight after several years away from the sport.
Bodyguard.
Being a bodyguard, exactly. Shamrock Gracie, definitely a grudge match from the past. Really looking forward to this fight, if only to settle the grudge.
Yeah.
If Gracie wins, great, but I don't think he'll fight again.
Hopefully they both retire.
Yeah, and if Shamrock wins, great. Like, what's next for these guys? Nothing, in my opinion. There's no... Really, all that can sell for these guys are grudge matches at this point. None of these guys are making a run, so... Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens, what Bellator does with these guys. And, of course, going further down the card, we have Kevin Ferguson, a.k.a. Kimbo Slice, against Dafir Harris, Dada 5000.
Undefeated at 2-0.
Yeah. So those are the only two fights that didn't happen in someone's backyard. And, actually, Dafir Harris, a pretty likable character in the documentary that is on Netflix right now called Fight Dog. It's a... what is it called? Is it called Fight Dog? Fight Land? Something like this. And, if you haven't checked it out, check it out on Netflix. It's it follows him and his promotion of backyard fights in Miami, I believe it is. And it's a really interesting insight into his life. And, it really makes you wonder what Kimbo Slice is talking about. However, every documentary is potentially up to bias, so maybe we're only getting half the story. But maybe there is no story here, and maybe Bellator is just, trying to get people to buy. Of course, going further down, we got Emmanuel Newton versus Linton Vassell. Both these guys coming off losses in that heavyweight tournament, or light heavyweight tournament. Of course, Emmanuel Newton losing to Phil Davis with the pretty spectacular fashion.
It was Kimura.
Yeah.
Very violent.
It was bad, and of course Emmanuel Newton, known for his positivity, has sort of shifted again and gone back to the punk rock kid, hardcore kid.
Yeah.
And Linton Vassell not looking too good in that tournament, however, getting, to fight Emmanuel Newton, who did look good, but then ultimately lost to the tournament winner. And, also Melvin Guard making his Bellator debut. Is this his Bellator debut?
I believe he had lost his debut, actually.
Oh, okay, my bad.
I believe. We'll check it out.
Yes, that's true.
Yes,
he did lose, against Brandon Grits.
Yeah, he was talking about shit, and then he just...
Oh, yeah, that's true. So he's fighting Derek Campos, 15-6-0. Be interesting to see if this guy can turn it around, the young assassin.
Well, it's just showing, too, that, there's that term that the best fighters fight in UFC. Melvin did great in UFC, and now that he's out in the other promotions, he is still not doing that great, or if also losing. Just shows that it's not just the top promotion that has the best fighters.
It's true. Anyways, let's talk about other non-top promotions. We're looking at one FC championship. One championship, one FC, however, 38 Tribe of Warriors happening on February 20th. Not too many names jumping out at me on this card, potentially because of the just still coming to learn everybody on one's roster. But in the main event, we have Luis Santos, 61-9-1 against Rafael Silva, 40-15-0. So you look at these two guys, 125 fights between the two of these.
And there's a guy named Rocky on the card.
Yeah. Well, Rocky Bellator.
It's the thing is that we may not know these fighters very well, but we're definitely going to check it out because 1FC's been really killing it with the cards.
Absolutely.
Really excited.
Yeah, they've been great.
Who cares if we don't really know the fighters, but it's going to be... If anything, we're just going to expand and know more of the fighters. There's so many fighters.
You got to find out with them at some point.
Yeah, exactly. And it's going to be... every fight card I've watched in 1FC has been action-packed.
They've all been crazy.
Yeah. And the production's great.
Yeah.
Production's great. With Rich Franklin having on commentary too, he has that experience in MMA, so you actually get the real good in-depth technique-wise when he's talking about certain things during the fight.
Really looking forward to that weekend of cards. Of course, next weekend we don't have anything going on, so we'll be taking a little break unless some serious shit happens in the world of MMA. But, before we wrap up this episode, because our mission statement here is to talk about past events, upcoming events, and industry news, let's just talk briefly about Bellator signing Benson Henderson. So they alluded to it in their entire previous event where they had where they kept on talking about how certain people fighting on that card would stack up on Bellator 148 live for free on Spike. They were talking about how good this person would look against Benson, how good this person would look against Benson, and now that Benson signed, it sounds like they are letting him fight at 170. Which is where he ended his career at UFC. With a win streak, yes. But that does negate all of the high-profile matches that we were looking at, like Daly and, MVP Michael Venom Page. Yeah. And, just everybody Bellator has in that division that's already stacked. They're actually putting him up against their current champion, his name, Kevo. It escapes me now, and that's the unfortunate part about Bellator. It's kind of hard to keep track on who's holding the belt at this time. Just starting to really, I've been paying attention to Bellator, but it's kind of hard to stay on top of
everything.
Yeah, they've got a lot of lesser known fighters, and you just get comfortable with one champion, and then that champion loses. Yeah. So maybe with Benson in here, we're gonna get a little bit of consistency. If he wins that belt, he might hold it for a while. Carvalho. Yes, okay.
And I had mentioned last night that I read a quote from Benson mentioning one of his biggest reasons for leaving UFC was the opportunity to go into boxing and kickboxing, which gets me extremely excited to see what he can do maybe in Glory or K1 if it's still around much longer, or any other type of boxing promotion. It's really cool, really awesome to see if he branches out into that world of combat sports.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see if anyone else follows suit too, with more high profile fighters leaving.
Yeah, we've got
Sergey just signed with Bellator, one of my favorite fighters from Pride and Strikeforce. Wanted him to go to UFC, but he loves his kickboxing, so I see why he took the Bellator route. So.
Yeah, and just going down the list of known UFC fighters that are sitting on the free agency list, just their contract has just come due. We're looking at Matt Mitrione, Alistair Overeem.
Lots of money going that way. They're really trying to do
you can
a lot
tell
of rumors right now.
Yeah, and Aljamain Sterling. So you can tell something's going on in the background because none of these guys have signed another contract yet.
Nothing's been said.
So
you just hear rumors all over the place.
Yeah, you would think that these guys, being the stars that they are and the up and coming stars that they could be, like Aljamain Sterling, and even to a certain extent Matt Mitrione, who was really starting to get the fire under his butt and really started making a run until that unfortunate loss against Matt Brown. Not
Ben Rothwell.
Was it Rothwell?
You got the choke.
Oh, well, the choke. Yeah. I guess, and then after that, it was Travis Brown. That's who it was. Yeah. So he's sliding on a 2-fight losing streak. Still think that makes good. I still think that's a good pickup for Bellator if UFC's not interested. But I don't see UFC just letting that go.
And he beat Derek Lewis, who just won last night too. In 20, 30 seconds.
I think he's a contender. He just needs the right fights.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's got power.
UFC has to do something contract-wise to make up for the Reebok deal, too, for some of these guys.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. They could get paid less to fight somewhere else, but they can get sponsors.
Yeah.
And
that's what Benson also alluded to as
that
well.
makes up a ton of money. So, UFC might have some work on their hands trying to keep some of these contracts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really interesting time with the top promotions at the moment.
Yeah, and apparently Benson was saying that Bellator wasn't even the first to come to him with a offer. Apparently ONE FC came to him with a very good offer, but
him
just
being
the ability.
Asian descent too, he probably wants to, branch out in there and fight a little bit. And
Yeah, but I think ultimately there was just more money and more opportunity in Bellator. Sounded like the UFC offer was contingent on performance, and Bellator was just like, we want you.
Yep.
So, yeah.
You actually called it right before.
I did, yeah. Clairvoyant over here.
Yeah, Benson's name is getting called all night.
Yeah, well,
voila, boom.
They planted the seed. They knew what they were doing. It was probably already a done deal. They just couldn't announce it yet, so they were just alluding to it as much as possible. I mean, they're not saying, oh, this guy can bang with Alistair Overeem yet. So as soon as they start saying that on Bellator live for free on Spike, then I know Alistair Overeem's coming over.
MMA podcast right away, boom.
Yeah, exactly. Just calling it all over here. So yeah, that's the world of MMA. Looking forward, like I mentioned before, we don't have any cards going on in the world of MMA next weekend. So unless something crazy happens, we're probably just going to take the week off. We want to thank you all for tuning in. How's the beer, boys?
Fantastic.
This
This
hot pot
Workhorse
treated me well.
IPA, which I forgot to mention earlier, it has to be one of the best beers I've had in a long time, and I'm gonna be drinking this beautifully looking logoed canned for a little while.
And of course, if you've been listening to our previous podcast, this isn't the first time SPCA IPA has made an appearance.
Yeah, the Pump House killed it on that SPCA IPA.
Yeah, it's great.
Awesome beer.
Yep, this Hop City's doing well too. Very good beers. So yeah, guys, if you like the show, please let us know. We appreciate you all tuning in. We're loving the support we're getting. We're seeing our hits go up, and we're really excited to bring you guys more news and gossip and reviews and our predictions and all of that stuff. Like I say, you can catch me on Instagram at RodneyMan, Trevor at Grever. We got Nick at NHBrown14, 44. I never talk to him on Instagram. And of course, you can find MMA Buzz Radio on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook by searching MMA Buzz Radio. We're on episode 7, and I think that's about it, unless you guys have anything else you want to say.
No, I seem to be good at the moment. Just look forward to doing a podcast in a couple weeks, and hopefully you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, I think that's a wrap.
All right, boys. Cheers. Episode 7 in the books.
MMA Buzz. Brought to you by The Beach Radio.